Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, this time of the year, it's really difficult to report on what isn't really happening. And that is most of us have stopped fishing for the year. Now, we've stopped for a number of reasons. First of all, it's getting so cold. The water is on almost in a state where it's going to turn to ice. It's just about the water or the air temperatures at night. But what fishing we still have, I think, is important to talk about, because the trout and salmon fishing that exists in the Great Lakes, and Lake Ontario in specific for our area, is a huge part of what's available right now. People are still coming from all over the Northeast to fish for steelhead and brown trout that move into the Salmon River and the other tributaries to feed on all the debris that came from the salmon going up that river to spawn and then to die. But I tell you, right now, the conditions change almost on a daily basis. Now, this morning I talked to my buddy Rocky, who's a guide down there on the Salmon River, and I've known him for years, and he's probably one of the most educated and most knowledgeable person about fishing of anybody I've ever met. And this is his specialty. So I said, Rocky, tell me, how is it different now than maybe it was a couple weeks ago? He says, well, there's still a lot of fish in the river, but they have spread out the whole length of the river. And so now he said, here's what I think is one of the basics of catching fish in the Salmon River this time of the year. And that is, you either got to move or you got to stay in the same spot and wait for the fish to come to you. And he says it seems to be that those that move around do the best this time of the year. And the other thing I asked him, I said, okay, so what time of the day, is there a time of day that's the best? And he says, well, normally early morning has been the best throughout the whole fall. That's when the fish become most active. But now, those early morning times, the water gets colder and colder, and the fish aren't as active. They're a cold-blooded being, and therefore, as that water gets colder and colder towards a freezing temperature, they're less active. He says it only takes maybe 1 or 2 degrees during the day to stimulate them to become more active. So this is another thing I think it's important to know. You know, and Rocky says, look, I'm getting older, and I don't want to get up at dark 30 like I used to for all my life. I want to enjoy my breakfast and then get out there when it's a little bit more accommodating to be out there. You know, he said right now, the fishing is primarily, and this is what we need to consider, these trout come up this river this time of the year for their fall buffet. And he says, so it's far more important, the presentation, than the bait that you're using. It's how you present it is everything this time of the year. And it's basically a bottom feed. If your bait isn't at least bumping along the bottom, you're probably not going to get a strike. So these are all key things to keep in mind if you're fishing right now. Now, I said, Rocky, let me ask you this. How about some of the other smaller tributaries, like the Sandy Creeks? He says, well, it's funny you say that, because he said there used to be a garrison commander here. He retired from the Army. He's back here in this area because of the wonderful outdoor fishing and hunting. He said, and he just caught a beautiful brown and a beautiful steelhead in Sandy Creek yesterday. And so, again, we have a number of options. We always think of the Salmon River as the number one place to go. But if you want to fish the smaller tributaries, sometimes that's easier for somebody that doesn't do this all the time, because the conditions are a little bit milder. And by what I'm saying is the water isn't as wide, it isn't as fast, it isn't as deep, and sometimes it can become easier for the novice, like I would be in this kind of fishing, to be able to take advantage of the tremendous opportunity to catch great, big, beautiful fish this time of the year. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.